the sixth day of January 6th, 2026. Bit of a tongue twister today. So Japan has a serious earthquake, again, in proximity to a fragile, embrittled, from neutron bombardment for 50 years, nuclear power plants, reminiscent of what happened to Fukushima's reactors. They were embrittled reactors too. That's why they gave up the ghost so quick. And there's this long history of using fake data. We're going to get into that. And then I'm just going to start off with a quick song. I was out on the researching again today. No rabbit tracks, no animal, no birds on the trail whatsoever. I'll show you some videos of that later. And we're going to kick it off with Nuclear Belgium. I'm going to put a link in the description while the video is playing. I'll be right back after.
100 hands, reverse the law. Phase 1 set, now put on pause. They claimed the grid could not endure and fed the myth of power pure. The fuel was buried, not the plan. It only waits for votes to stand. From all they stacked the vessels deep. T-hands ran long though did not sleep. No chant was sung, no grave was raised. Just softer lights in western bays. A farmer passed through fields unclaimed. No one asked what wasn't named. Nuclear Belgium, hear the ground. Not a soul to turn it down. Nuclear Belgium, soul that's clean. Ballots cast, the elite's decree. Nuclear Belgium, built to last. But the river learns too fast. They wrote it down in 23, then turned the page before the plea. The pause they pitched became a door, a lease renewed without a floor. The mask was spun in policy, but no one asked the river's fee. Nuclear Belgium, hear the ground. Not a soul to turn it down. Nuclear Belgium, soul that's clean. Ballots cast, the elite's decree. Nuclear Belgium, built to last. But the river learns too fast. Now tell the child in Malta today what steams beneath the concrete base. Dessels drums into me lie, and NATO carries what we weigh. The wind from Flanders bends its back. The scaffold stands, but none look back. Nuclear Belgium, hear the ground. Not a soul to turn it down. Nuclear Belgium, soul that's clean. Ballots casted, elite's decree. Nuclear Belgium, built to last. But the river learns too fast.
And we got a link in the description for you for the song and for many, many other amazing songs and stories and films. I hope you go over and enjoy it. And you'll find links in my playlist to all these songs. Anti-nuclear music. All right, so complicated stories. So it was an Opera 5 in orange. As you can see the orange up there. Or you see the orange with the two X's. You can see the stupid one I put there, the big tick one. And the other X is the earthquake. The other one is nuclear plant. Now they're saying it's about 30 kilometers apart, but that's simply not true. Now this nuclear power plant in particular had discovered a fault line underneath it in 2006. Same as Fukushima, same as all the other plants, what we're seeing, the Shika plant. I'll show you some of that in a few minutes right away. We'll show you the Hokkaido, where they done the same thing and covered it up with a significant earthquake. Wait till you see that stuff. Nuclear power firm in Japan used improper data during watchdog evaluation. You know, I was thinking about that, and Japan is on a fault line, the entire country, from what we're seeing. They say it's the Ring of Fire, but the country is on one great big, multiple fault lines. Like the Shika fault line was dormant for 3,500, 4,000 years. And that cracked wide open in a spectacular, horrific way, January 1st, 2024, right? And so when you're on the tectonic plates, this is not something you should be ignoring. And there's a lot of them. The last couple of days, there's a lot of these stories, and that's from today. It says it may have manipulated earthquake data for the Mocha nuke. May have. And then they show you the stupidest picture imaginable, where these chicken eggs bowing somehow signifies that they have some redeeming qualities or some morals, which is absurd to suggest. The Hamauka nuclear disease factory restart likely delayed by improper earthquake data. That's a big story the last couple of days. And now we find out we have an earthquake right alongside of a running reactor. It's very important stuff. Cherry-picked quake data might have been submitted. And they use that word because they can't use the truth for some, because the nuclear industry can't handle the truth. It'll fall apart immediately. It can't even handle scrutiny, and you can see that by the amount of people on my show. Completely censored, right? Japan's most dangerous nuclear power plant admits to manipulating earthquake safety data. Japan nuclear plant faces scrutiny over potentially underestimated earthquake risk. In Japan, non-nuclear regulators, the more appropriate way to describe them, molds a fresh screening for the Homoka plant. They're going to lie about it anyway. So, just before we jump into today's earthquake, you got to consider what their legacy and recent history is for covering up earthquakes and nuclear power plants. Earthquake buried homes under landslides in Hokkaido, which is the most northerly island in Japan. It's a big one too, right? It's over 4 million people lost electricity, so it's a significant metropolitan. 22,000 people were involved in the rescue effort. 22,000. Shika, they wouldn't let any external people go in and help with the rescue. Every country out there, because they had like 1,500 landslides, they had a tsunami for 100 miles of the coastline. They lost 6 harbors because the earth rose up 13 feet and they were permanently dried out harbors after that. That was last year, the beginning of last year. A year ago, on the 1st of this month. As the Northern Ireland still deals with the after effects of a magnitude 6.6 quake. 6.6 quake. Which is absurd to call it a 6.6 quake. That's what Japan is. It's absurd, right? So, like, when you see landslides, On the scale of landslides, it's pretty big, right? That's a big landslide. You give me that? You agree with that? See the little puny trucks, transport trucks over there? That's a big landslide, right? But that's a big landslide. That's the same earthquake. It's different landslides. But when you zoom out, you can see that little puny helicopter up there, little puny houses, pretty big landslides, right? Well, that 6.6 earthquake dropped the payloads on every side of the mountains in 2018. Was that 2018? They do it so much I can't keep up with it anymore. 2018. Have you ever seen a picture like that before? Let me get my big stupid head out of the way. My big balloon head, my great big deformed lopsided skull. I'm a mutant from Fukushima. And I know some people don't like me picking on myself, but that's just who I am. I apologize because there's nothing I can do about it. I apologize because I swear there's nothing I can do about it. I'm an old seaman. I was a commercial diver. It's hard to comprehend how many times I screamed in panic on the ocean floor. Because you spend 6 hours a day on the ocean floor, 130 days straight at a time. And scary shit happens, and your mind goes, ugh. I was young then. I'm not young anymore, that's for sure. 2018, now they said this was a 6.6 megawatt, 6.6 magnitude megawatt. Magnitude. But 6.6 magnitude doesn't do stuff like that. There was a 9 point something, 10 point something earthquake. And so you can see that's the map of Japan, those islands. And then the dot is the most northerly island itself. And there it is again, 6.6. At a depth of 35 kilometers, 21 miles. Now this is on land, the same as the earthquake today that we're going to get to right after it shows you. I want to show you that there's a history of them covering this up, because it's unbelievably important that you're paying attention when it comes to Japan or any nuclear plant on the planet and earthquakes. Registered a magnitude of 6.7 and a maximum intensity scale of 7 on the Shindu scale, the Japanese Shindu scale. So they don't bother telling you 7 is they say maximum intensity of 7, but what they're supposed to say is measure the maximum intensity of 7 on the Shindu scale of 7, 1 to 7. And it does that in increments of 1.5. And you can see it in this one right here, right? You see, in the 4, they don't even have a lower 4, upper 4. They just brush past all of it. But each one of them, like a 1 has a lower, upper, 2 is a lower and upper, 2 is lower and upper, 2.5 is a lower, above 2.5 is an upper. Same thing for 3, 4, and 5. 5 lower, 5 to 5.5. So a 6 or a 5.5 could be a 5.99. That's still a 5 upper. But that matters in the conversion, because you got to multiply whatever these numbers are, ultimately by 1.428 to get the international scale. And when you say it's a 6.6 magnitude, we've never seen a 6.6 magnitude drop the payloads on every side of the mountains. In fact, we've never seen the payloads dropped on all the mountains as far as you can see. And I'll show you more pictures. So the Shindu scale is a very sneaky scale. It was 130 aftershocks for that one. The Shika, January 1st, 2024, had 1,500 landslides, and it had 1,500 aftershocks, give or take 100. Registered maximum 6.7 and maximum intensity scale of 7. So that works out to a 9.5. That's a 9.5 earthquake on the international scale. If you take their 6.7, their maximum intensity, right? Because by using, and Taiwan does the same thing, where they use this separate scale, The idea is because they're dependent on nuclear, this is the way to hide it because, oh, they had a 6.6. Most people don't even give it a sneeze. But you'd be mistaken not to. Now, there was a nuclear power plant, the Tomari nuclear power plant on Hokkaido Island. And then when you look at the comparison, I showed you one of today, CDX up there. Well, that's the earthquake, but right across from it is the nuclear power plant. And when you're talking about, a country that's built on tectonic plates, those little details, you got to kind of pay attention to it, to say the least. So here's another picture. You can see all the payloads on each. What I mean by that, the whole mountainsides is not like a typical landslide that we envision. If I say a landslide to you, this is not what you think about. You don't think about every side of each mountain losing its entire payloads. Here's another picture to think about. Think about this picture here. So, this is not that far from a nuclear power plant at Hokkaido Island, right? Okay. Shika. The Shika nuclear power plant, you can see it over there. That actually had a tsunami. That coastline rose up 13 feet. The community itself, this was January 1st, 2024 story, but this story is still going on today. It registered the highest level of 7 on the Japanese seismic intensity scale in the town of Shika, which is hosting a nuclear disease factory. But now the fuel, not running, unlike the one today is running, and he said it continued to run. Now, of course, Japan is notorious for lies. That's the one thing you can count on with Japan is no matter what happens, they're going to lie. They said this was harmless. They said this didn't matter. They said everything was great. You've never seen an earthquake do that before. I've never seen it. Well, I'm assuming you've never seen it. If you did, let me know in the comment section. I'd really like to hear about it. I'd like to look it up later. Feel free to correct me. Okay, so the Shika nuclear plant, then we're going to jump right into the story. There's only 3 of these. I might come back to it later with more stuff. 7 on the size, so it's a 10 earthquake on the Richter scale. Now, they have, they got the plant, they're about to open that one up. It was discovered to see the fault line over there, the dotted line, the Eurasian plate, the North American plate. To the left of it is the Noto Peninsula, Ishikawa Prefecture. And that was catastrophic what they had to happen there on January 1st, 2024. I got the arrow where the Niigata nuclear power plant is. You can see the proximity to the tectonic plates that after 3,500 to 4,000 years have significantly ruptured in a spectacular way, with over 1,000 aftershocks, with over 1,000 landslides. The people were cut off. They wouldn't let international communities go in and rescue them. Have you ever heard that one before? Because the first 72 hours is kind of important. It's a big deal. I got my grounding sheet under the desk here, because I'm usually sitting here for hours and hours, right? And I figured I needed another grounding. A grounding sheet is you're plugged into the ground outdoors, right? And that kind of, it's very healthy for you being in contact with the ground. It changes the chemistry of your body, for goodness sakes, right away. Your body reacts to it immediately. It's in a good way, too. And so, again, we see him, and now they knew about this 4,000-year-old fault line that ruptured, and it ruptured like. And do you think now leading up to it, there was something like 22,000 earthquakes a year. It went from 20 a year, small earthquakes, to 22,000 a year for the first 2 years before the rupture. But Japan, the entire country, shouldn't be allowed to have nuclear. So at Fukushima, they had 4 reactors, and at the top of each, now we don't know how many, where the fuel pools, if that's a Mach 1 reactor for time of the night, because that would have multiple reactor cores at the top of the buildings. It's hard to imagine that there was no adverse side effects at that site. And you're talking about a 2 square mile site, so you can't just say, I checked it and everything looks okay. It doesn't work that way. But that's what they came out, and we're going to cover those stories right away here coming up. Just got a few of these pictures to get through to remind you that this country is incapable of being honest. So they had 36 reactor cores melt down in Japan. They covered that up. Do you think for a second they wouldn't cover up an event today? Or an event in the Nakito Island earthquake? Do you think for 1 second, the fact that they say this never even happened, do you think that they would do it again? If you didn't, how you going there, pro-nuclear? Nut job? Wacko? We're almost to the story. I apologize. I'm tired. It's a rough day. I'm trying to skidoo. It's cold. It's snowing. And not some spring chicken anymore, I noticed. In fact, I haven't got. We were on the skidoo yesterday. All that fresh otter. Mom, Dana's eating otters. So when you look at these buildings, do you think they're destroyed? These were 19-story, 190 feet, 65-meter buildings. Officially, this never happened. And at the top of each of the buildings were 8 more reactor cores. So you're talking about 9 reactor cores in each building. Each reactor core is equal to 100 Chernobyls because they're pure uranium, pure plutonium. They're massive reactor cores. And Chernobyl was a newer reactor, was a small reactor, was a graphite reactor. It didn't have fuel pools at the top of the buildings. I've been sitting on 13 viewers and 17 likes since I started. Should multiple powerful earthquakes within 10 kilometers of a brittle 50-year-old nuclear power plant concern you? Somebody's not concerned. Give us a call. You can call into the live show there. Dimwit. How could you say no, that doesn't concern you after what they done at Fukushima? You can call in at, where the hell am I? At Dr. Verified. I'm getting there, don't worry. We're going to do short videos, but you got to realize I'm not Mr. Energy. I'm just keeping these shows going is an incredible chore. Your whole day has to be focused to be able to do these presentations, right? You have to be dedicated to this every day. It's a hard thing to do for anybody for anything, but this is such an important subject. I don't have my phone with me, so I gotta go grab it. I'll be right back because I'm an idiot. I'm just kidding you. I'll be right back. Got the wrong phone, hang on. All right. Alrighty, we're back. 709-740-4076. We're in Canada. So let me apologize right away for being Canadian. I know, Danny, you're a pretty pathetic country. You should worry about your own country. I'm not going to have a country because Japan has poisoned us, the entire planet. Yeah, there we go, it's up and running. I know pro-nuclear is not going to call in, they never do. If they do, it's just to yell something profanity to me. The radioactive fallout covered the whole planet, and now we're seeing all the whales are emaciated. And emaciated in a way we've never seen it before. It was really interesting when they released this picture a couple of months ago. This was the only picture they released, very low quality. This was a bride's whale. It should weigh around 90,000 pounds. It maybe weighs 1,800 pounds. It was alive when it came ashore. We've never seen anything like it. All the whales are showing up like this. Powerful 6.2 earthquake hits Japan, Shimane Prefecture. Probably going to butcher some names because we're talking about Japan or any other country that I don't speak the language. And you see it's up behind Hiroshima over there. A strong earthquake hits western Japan with no risk of a tsunami. Yeah, because it was on land. It was located at a depth of 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles inland. Of course, there's not going to be a tsunami. But the word tsunami, see, is used because that makes everybody drop their guard. When they say there's no tsunami, everybody's like, okay, well, I don't have to worry about it. But if it's close to a nuclear power plant, within 30, 40, 50 miles of a nuclear power plant, you definitely better be paying attention. There was no risk of a tsunami. The Shimane, we'll call it Shimane for lack of better Japanese. Now, it was suspended pending reactivation as of 2023, but it was actually, they restarted number 2 reactor, which is there you go, boiling water reactor, 820 megawatts, so this is a huge reactor. And that was commissioned in 1989. But the other reactors were commissioned like in 74, for instance, right? And we don't know about number 3 for some reason. Oh, it was being new construction. So they shut this down after Fukushima, like all the other reactors and their disease factors, I should call them. It was restarted on 2024. So it was running. And he said it continued to run. That's the official story. In June 2006, a previously unknown geological fault was identified close to the plant. And it was expected to be years before the plant could be strengthened. But they went ahead and opened the thing without strengthening it. It's a 2 square kilometers, 470 acre site. It's a massive site. M6.2 quake strikes western Japan. A preliminary magnitude, 6.2. The Chugoku region of Japan, Chokoku region. Now see Masi, M-A-T-S-U-E, at the top of the page, and Yanagango to the right of it, top of the page. That's so there was multiple earthquakes is what they done here, and they kind of moved you away from ground zero. The epicenter of the first earthquake, the first one, because they had multiple earthquakes, followed by a series of sizable aftershocks. And almost all the media framed the narrative that way, sizable aftershock. Sizable aftershock. The first earthquake hit at 10:18 a.m. in Shimane Prefecture. I'm probably butchering the name. The plant's located in Matsu, which is a pretty big city there apparently. It's the only nuclear plant in Japan that's situated in a city, that is the capital rather of the prefecture. I don't know if that matters or not. The Matsu Nuclear Disease Factory, officially known as Shimane Nuclear Power Plant, recently restarted its number 2 reactor after being offline for over a decade, raising safety concerns among the locals, but not the nuclear industry. It'll tell you lie after lie after lie to get their own way. And if it melts down, they'll tell you to get lost and drop dead when your loved ones are dying from the radiation. M6.2 quake strikes, that's why you can't trust nuclear. You shouldn't have it on your planet anyway, because there's nobody on the planet with an autoimmune trigger to defend against it. M6.2 quake strikes western Japan. It's about 32 kilometers away, they're saying, and they're framing it as if from the earthquake itself, which is that's 20 miles, I think it is. But that depends on which earthquake they're talking about, because we're having multiple earthquakes there, and these earthquakes are so strong, and we're going to get to it. Buildings far, far away, far past the nuclear plant, for instance, are swaying. Japan's Nuclear Regulation Authority, which is just the worst disgusting parasites on the planet, said there was no irregularities at the plant. As I showed you, this is a 2 square kilometer site. Very complicated site. How are you going to quantify an assertion like that within a few minutes? How does that work? And the reactors are brittle. They're brittle. And so, these are 1,000 pounds per square inch reactors. And so that you get an earthquake, you can cause a split but still not pop, and now it'll just blow apart at some point whenever the pressure gets to it, right? You create an environment that it might take weeks or months or a year or two or more for it to manifest, but it's going to manifest. My apologies, I meant to turn the mic down for you, but I'll get it next time, hopefully. A spokesperson said the utility was checking on any impacts on the plant's number 2 unit. So Japan Nuclear Regulation Authority, in the paragraph before, it says there's no irregularities, but in the next paragraph, they got somebody still that they're checking. So how can you say there's no irregularities when you haven't checked the whole site yet? I mean, you're talking about 2 square kilometers. Just worthless humans, that's what these people are. Well, it hasn't been operating since 2024, after being shut down. It's been operating since, say, 1990, 1985 or whatever it was. I forgot to take note of that. I'll go back and look for it in a second. It included an M.5 right after it. Let me go backwards for 1 second. Oh, there's the data I'm looking for in this area. 1989, 1990, 2010, 20. So 35 years. Even though they shut it down, they still had fuel in it. They still had fuel in the building. They still had 3 decades, almost 3 decades, well, over 3 decades now, of neutron bombardment, right? These are kind of important. Did I get all of that? Other tremblers, like calling a 5.4 quake. And when you put magnitude there, you can't believe Japan. That could be the Shindu number. This is what they're, and I showed you that evidence earlier. They have a horrific legacy of doing this. That's their go-to thing, is to lie to you. 6.2 magnitude earthquake jolts western Japan. The initial quake was followed by a sizable number of aftershocks. The initial quake was followed by a sizable number of aftershocks. What does that mean, though? A sizable number. Just one aftershock is considered really bad. So what's a sizable? What does a sizable number stand for? Hey Siri, what does the phrase sizable number mean?
Here's some info about expected value.
In probability theory, the expected value generalization of the weighted average. You suck, Siri. The initial quake was followed by a sizable number of aftershocks. And then the picture of people stood outdoors. The quake was relatively shallow. Yeah, it was like 10 kilometers, 6 miles. That's not relatively shallow. That's catastrophically shallow. And what that kind of quake means is that the higher up you go, the worse the shaking is going to be. Because the shaking is shallow, so it's violently shaken. So therefore, the top part, when it starts shaking, it over-exaggerates on the shaking because of the top part of the Earth's crust is active. And the quake occurred in Shimane, Prefecture, northern Japan, impacting the cities of Masu and Yasugi and nearby areas in Tottori prefectures. You can see Tottori is way over here, right? So if the earthquake is right over by the plant and it affected buildings over here, is it safe to say Matsu, M-A-T-S-U-E, which is right alongside of it, where the nuclear power plant is too, would have been much more stronger impact than Tottori, which let's keep going here. Which is about, they say, 32 kilometers away from which earthquake, though? They had multiple earthquakes. They weren't all in the same place. This is a dormant fault line that has become active in that area. Is that what's going on here? Japan's nuclear authority said there was no irregularities at the plant, as usual. That's every story will tell you the exact same narrative, framed the exact same way. Like they've never talked to him, they just write that there because that's what they're supposed to do. That's the law. To be a moron journalist, which has been operating since 2024 after being shut down was operating since 1989. Other tremors followed. Okay, I screwed that up, did I? The plant is located in Kashima, Matsu City. Matsu is a pretty big city, apparently. The plant is notable for being the only one in Japan located within a prefectural capital. Should I look up that one? Because we didn't look up Kashima for some reason. Because I'm complacent sometimes. Why did it give me the map for? There's no map showed up that time. That's weird. Yeah, because there's multiple Kashimas there. We put in Metsu. Normally, when you type in something to the search engine, you get the option of map. Or not, for some reason. I could just use Google. Hang on here, I'll bring you on board here. Right, because normally, like, you got news, video, goggles. I know Google's, but it's supposed to be Google. Shit for brains, Google. Let me see if we can find it. Let me see. I just want to see the proximity so I can. Yeah, Matsu Station. Keshima. I don't see it there. K-A. Am I stupid or something? Don't answer that. I don't see it. Let me get rid of Matsu, because I got the word Matsu there, right? Gonna give me a hard time. Oh, it's got to be up here somewhere. Okay, so that's the upper part anyway. That's like same thing as Matsu City, right? It was the same. It was the same context. Whatever. Let's keep going here. I was hoping that I could make something more clear, but that backfired. So this is a very zoomed in. Let me get it out of the way. You'll see the scale behind me. It's a 2-mile marker in the very bottom. You see the markers? The blue markers? Right by my thumb there. Just try to give you some kind of scale. Yes, Sugui. So there was multiple earthquakes, right? They weren't all in the same place, is what I'm trying to convey to you. Japan's non-nuclear regulatory authority says no abnormalities were detected in the 2 square kilometer nuclear power site. It's a very complicated site. Like, it would take you a month to quantify that assertion, not 15 minutes after the earthquake. Resident upper 5 in Japan's Shindu scale in the western city of Yasugi. Okay, so that's important. And Yasugi is up around, just past Yanago. It's up like where my finger is right now. So it's quite a long ways away from the earthquake compared to the distance to the nuclear power plant. It was relatively shallow. We talked about that earlier. It was 6 miles down, 10 kilometers or something. It occurred in the Shimane Prefecture, northwestern Japan, impacting the cities Matsu, Yasugi, and nearby areas in the Tottori Prefecture. We've got to keep our eye on this now for years and years, site, because this fault line, it looks like it's finally ruptured. Much like the Shike, we could have another one. They're expecting strong earthquakes, particularly over the next couple of days, but at least for the next month, impacting the city of Misui, which is where they got the nuclear plant, and Yasugu, which is quite a long ways away. The nuclear plant is much closer than Tottori prefectures, for instance, right? The Tottori itself is far away from the earthquake compared to the nuclear power plant. in Masu City. The nuclear plant is in Masu City itself. Yeah. Yasugi. The regulation authority said no abnormalities were detected close by, but there was abnormalities everywhere else far away. Just evil little despicable parasites, these people, eh? It was an upper 5 in the Shindu scale, so you got to multiply it. So you got to take the international scale, right, the Richter scale, and divide it by 7. You get 1.4285 or something, which doesn't matter because you got an 8 anyway, right? So it's still going to be 1.43, but like to be accurate, it's 1.428. You multiply it by an upper 5, which I talked about earlier, which could be a 5.5 or 5.6 and up, 5.7, 5.8, 5.9. Not that they count it that way. The Shindu scale, but when you're trying to do the conversion, which is based on 100, right? The Richter scale is based on 100. They're based on 14. And the idea is to come up with a lower number, which disarms the international community of the dangers of nuclear plants and fault lines and earthquake zones. So this was an 8.3 earthquake on land. On land. Don't worry, there was no tsunami. And they don't bother putting there because it's on land so people will learn, but they love having the word tsunami, right, because people get sick of, and when you finally have a tsunami that hits the nuclear plant, then everybody's don't even bother paying attention to it because they're so used to being manipulated, right? Imagine how bad that would have sounded if I didn't turn the microphone off. So an 8.3 earthquake, now that gets your attention, right? You're like, holy shit, an 8.3 earthquake. That's a fucking earthquake there, Dana. Yeah, that's right. That's a real earthquake. 8.3 is a bad boy. Now we got 9 people on my show. And the truth sucks, eh? Nobody wants to hear the truth. No, it's just the censorship is absurd. I got 9 people on my show, but I got more than twice, almost 3 times many votes. Show got to go on, though. That's just the way it is. In the western city of Yasugi was an upper 5, so it was an 8.28 in Yasugi City, which is far away compared to the nuclear plant itself. Which is far away compared to the nuclear plant itself. So you had an 8.28 earthquake. You had 8.2 earthquake right around where my finger is too. Right, shaking, even though the earthquake was over by the nuclear plant. They didn't go that way in the Massachusetts City and say it was an 8.2. They said it was an 8.2 over here, and it was a very strong earthquake all the way over here. But don't worry, right alongside of the earthquake, everything's like a banana and a potato chip anyway, so it must have been cool. I know, I hear you, man. So in the western city of Yasugi, the earthquake was so powerful, made it difficult to drive. So if you were driving a car, it was very difficult to drive, and heavy furniture like fridges and wall units and small buildings would tip over. And you couldn't drive a car very good if you were way over here. But if you were right by the nuclear power plant, which was way closer, everything was hunky-dory, Dan. It was like a banana anyway, so it doesn't matter. Just let me drink, because I know my tea is going to be cold here. Now, I got 7 people on my show. Does this isn't that interesting? The fact that you had massive earthquake 8.2 over here on the international scale, far away than what it would have been to the plant. Just the industry is full of these cowards on top of that. Everybody in the nuclear industry, for some weird reason, is a weirdo. Like the worst kind of weirdos, too. Even if you can see them in a car driving past you at 100 miles per hour, like, that was freaking weirdo. Look at that. That was weird. What the hell is wrong with that person? And then somebody says, oh, yeah, he works at the nuclear plant. Everybody's like, oh, okay. There you go. That makes sense. He's pro-nuclear shit for brains. The Shimane Nuclear Disease Factory is located in Masu City, which is close to the earthquake zone. A 6.8 magnitude earthquake detected in Japan, no tsunami warning. They don't bother putting, right, because it was on land there. A depth of 6 miles, an upper 5, which is an 8.2, 8.3 on the international scale, because the Shindu scale is only 1 to 7. On Japan's seismic intensity scale, a second tremor found shortly after magnitude 5.1, that was in a different place, registered lower, 5. Long swaying motions were widely reported, with additional aftershocks, earthquakes, continuing through the late morning. Swaying motion was widely reported. Swaying motions. It's a complicated story, reality of it was. Trying to put the story together. You gotta realize, I was out on the skidoo. I'm still cold from that. I was doing okay for the first couple of hours, but I'll dress warmer tomorrow. It's just, we're in a little cold spell too, right? No rabbits, no birds, no squirrels, no tracks on the side of the skidoo trail. We got fresh snow on the ground again. And so if there was any tracks, we would have, in the last 10 hours before that, we would have seen it. Well, the snow is really soft too, right? So you would see it. I get my confidence back again now on the skidoo. Because, I got stuck last year, and my confidence took a bit of a... I got edited because I have a winch welded on. I'll actually show you that coming up. I have a winch welded on the back of the skidoo to get me out of a jam. And I carry like 200 feet of extra rope with me. So I have 250 feet counting. Well, my winch is 80 feet rope. It's not wire, it's rope. Then the rope I'm using is a 1/2-inch rope that I'm carrying with me, right? I have blocks and tackles, and I have all kinds of ways to engineer my way out of there. But warns that the earthquake up to upper 5 intensity could continue for about a week. Really? An earthquake only lasts a week? With the highest risk in the next 2 or 3 days. You can't quantify that assertion. You can't say an earthquake is going to be dormant after it ruptures. Well, there aren't a lot of pressure for fake and earthquake data for nuclear plants across the entire country. So an upper 5 is an 8.2 on an international scale. This is up by Hiroshima. The problem is these are old reactors. They have decades of reactor cores at the top of the buildings. This is Fukushima 2.0, ready to go down. And the reactor was running. So an upper 5, it could be a lower 6. Like, believing Japan is literally a fatal mistake. To believe anything Japan tells you, that's a fatal mistake. Japan says their food is safe. Their food is never safe. It's under no circumstances can it be safe. The Shimane Nuclear Power Plant earthquake. So you can see the comparison I put there to try to give you context. And they're saying, I'm probably going to have to probably going to have to come up here to explain that. So up here, it was hard to drive a car. No, over here, it's hard to drive a car. But the nuclear power plant, which was much closer to ground zero, and ground zero is towards the coast. All right, so they had different earthquakes in this stretch here. So the nuclear site, which is these are very brittle, very fragile sites. The material is brittle. Let me fix, I don't know if I can fix me, but let me try to straighten that up. So the epicenter is the X, all right? And the upper 5 could be a lower 6, could be an upper 6. Like I showed you earlier about the Hikito, I showed you those pictures. That was a 10 out of a 10. It was a 7 out of a 7 on the Shindu scale. But it was very difficult to get that assertion in the media, even though clearly it's out there post-Hikito earthquake, 2018, which dropped all the payloads in all the mountains. Oh yeah, it looks better on that picture right there. Let me just zoom in a little bit. So I pointed to a lower 6. That was an accident, but it wasn't a terrible accident. I got 6 people on my show now. We're killing her now. But if you got the other assholes out there doing earthquake videos, they got 6,000, 60,000 on their video, and they're the most boring people. They'll never show you this documentation. Put some of this information over here. Just bear with me 1 second. Just so I can find it again on some other day. You know, the crazy thing is that I am really good at cataloging everything, but the thing is we cover so much information. It just, like, if you're an information junkie, then this is the place for you. But I think you would hope that the average person would be an information junkie. The average person, you would hope. The average person would want the truth, right? So let me show the earthquake that they covered up. It's really something what... There's about 10 pictures coming up. I'll jump on the bigger screen for you here. So they had, that's a pretty big landslide. Can you see the houses right out in that, where the hell's Dana? Dana, I can't see you. Oh, there I am, I feel better now. I don't know about you, but I feel better, I can see myself. That sounds crazy, but it's not when you think about it. So look at the liquefaction here, where the car is sunk into the mud. That's how are you going to get your car out of the driveway over there? No, it was a 6.6 earthquake, Dana. 6.6 earthquakes don't look like this. Or like that. They're big landslides, right? How about this landslide right here? Covers, I don't know how much it covers, but it's, from a helicopter, you're seeing all sides of the mountains lose their payloads. From the top of the mountains all the way down to the farms. A lot of farms there, so you know there's a nuclear plant close by. How sick is that statement, eh? Because that's how it works. The amount of nuclear plants we can have on our planet are dictated by how many places we have farms. You need farms so they can move the radioactive fallout from the fuel pool off into the local area so they don't get caught for poisoning. Every nuclear plant, except for a few, are surrounded by farms as far as you can see. So would you call that like a 6.6 earthquake, or would you call that a 10 out of a 10 earthquake? Japan says it's a 6-point earthquake. But there used to be a road there. But you can really see the liquefaction of that car up there, right? And this is not reclaimed land we're looking at. So when you look at that and you look at this, it's hard to comprehend how enormous the landslides really are, right? Because you got a close-up picture. Don't worry, it was a 6.7 magnitude earthquake. 6.7 magnitude earthquakes don't look like that. And they definitely don't look like this, and they don't look like that, and they never looked like that before. We've never seen it. Believe absolutely nothing Japan tells you. That's your rule of thumb. If you go by that, then you're one of the smartest people in your community. If you're, I gotta have to clear my throat. I'll be right back. Well, that must be some screw up when I got 3 people on my show. I've never seen that before. When's the last time you seen only 3 people on my show? There must be a lot of people on my show if they drop me down to 3. They want me gone. Should multiple powerful earthquakes within 10 kilometers of a brittle 50-year-old nuclear disease factory concern you? Maybe it's the pole. That's why they're censoring the living shit out of me. I don't know. Could be. Long swaying motion was widely reported. A long swaying motion was widely reported. With additional aftershocks continuing through late morning. So aftershocks are earthquakes. Different earthquakes. So there wasn't just this one earthquake. There was multiple earthquakes, which meant that was a fault line. That's a fault line that does that, right? That's not something. These are big earthquakes. These are swaying. You can't even drive your car 3 times the distance away from a nuclear power plant. So you got a nuclear power plant right alongside you. 3 times the distance to the north, you couldn't drive cars. But the nuclear plant close by, that was totally fine, didn't it? Japan wouldn't lie to you. They lie in every sentence. That's what the nuclear industry does. They really are something. We don't have a comparison that we can say, nuclear does this, and they do that too, and they do this too. Nuclear is the industry that, of the scum of the scum, the nuclear industry has got the top spot locked and sealed. That's their puppy. Agency says there is no tsunami risk. No, because it's on land. It's on land, you friggin' meathead. CDX up there, that's on land. But warns that the earthquake up to upper 5 intensity can continue for about a week with the highest risk in 2 or 3 days. No, well, you shouldn't use the word highest risk, but a continuous risk, with a severe risk, not highest risk, but it should be severe because these are severe events, right? And it matters because if you have an event, you can contaminate the entire planet with radioactive fallout. That's why it matters. There's links below the video to help you appreciate. So if the nuclear power plant breaks down, it's Hiroshima, they built this city, and Nagasaki, they built the cities back on nuclear bomb craters. We've never seen anything like that before. They done that so they can study the people like lab rats forever and ever, and their siblings throughout their legacies, right? So highly radioactive glass rained on Tokyo. Fukushima nuclear fuel with 500 billion atoms a kilogram found. So in a square, like when you take a square meter, to get a square meter, you're going to multiply it by 66.6. Let's do that for a bit of fun. Is there anything the nuclear industry doesn't destroy? Bear with me. Here we go. 500 billion atoms a kilogram. Was that right? Did I say that right? Yeah, 500 billion. Holy shit, eh? So 500 is that's 500 billion. Multiplied by 66.6 to get a square meter. That's their number, not mine. So it's 33,300 trillion atoms per square meter. Where your kid plays and you wait for the bus, or you stood up outside the building. In harder hit areas, officials caution about increased risk of landslides and falling rocks. Map of a 5.7 magnitude earthquake shakes Japan. Strong magnitude 6.2 earthquake strikes Japan. So everybody that's describing it is describing it. And then they show you a picture of the Fukushima reactor. An aerial view in 2023 of the Fukushima disease factory. The lies, you got to go to my playlist to see, cover the tanks in the water and see the actual documentation of what really goes on there. That's an eye opener. You won't regret it. An earthquake with a preliminary magnitude 6.2. I'm gonna sneeze. Hang on. I only sneezes in ones. I used to sneeze in two, but I got hit in the head when I was young, and now I only sneezes in ones. Okay, I hit my head doing stupid shit on motorcycles and dirt bikes. Got a long history of that one too. Followed by a series of, I was really good on wheelies. I was a madman off-road on bikes. I rode them all my life, right? I still ride every year. I ride for months and months every year on motorcycles. It's the best way to get into the nooks and crannies and look for species and that, right? Find the wildlife. And it's cool. What's not to like about driving motorcycles? Followed by a series of sizable aftershocks. I kind of breezed over that. Followed by a series of sizable aftershocks. I never actually heard an earthquake framed that way. Have anybody? I've never actually heard that framing, that narrative before. Um, let me see. Yeah, not half a trillion, 500 trillion. Thanks, Richard. You're right. 32,500 trillion atoms. I did say half a trillion, even though I was looking at it on the screen. It was because I have other things going on in my head, and my brain is not very big, as nuclear scientists will say. Dana's brain is like the size of the hair on the balls of a fly, right? But actually, I'm a really straightforward person. I'm very sincere, but I live a complicated life because I'm under scrutiny, and the nuclear industry is always looking for something to get at me, to destroy me, to discredit me, and no matter what it is, they'll blow it out of proportion, and it'll do that, exactly that, right? And so that messes with a person's head. You know, I've learned to switch it off because I can't change it. There's nothing I can do about it. That's who they are, and that's what they do. But it's a very hurtful thing when it's done to you. I don't know if you appreciate the psychological impact of being under siege for 2.5 decades. When you're, I'm always a little shocked that the world is not doing what we're doing here. I'm terrified about that facet. And like, what we do, this little group of people, there's a small group out there, and there's a few people out there working hard to make a difference. Not very many. There's only 4 or 5 honest people that I know of. And the reason I do it is I'm just trying to set a standard, trying to educate a population, and create a whole bunch of little bastards just like me, hopefully. That would make me enormously proud to create 1 million little bastards just like me that could go out and fuck over the nuclear industry on a drop of a hat. That's a cool thing. It can't be too bad. Yeah. Let me see what else here. A quake had a seismic intensity upper 5 in Japan's 1 to 7 scale. Well, see, that's still like it's 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 0.5, 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5, and 7. So it's a scale of 13. So there's not an upper 7, by the way. Is there an upper 7? I've never heard them, that's the question. I've never heard them describe a lower 7. A lower 7 on the Japanese Shinto scale. Have you ever heard that? I can't remember. Strong magnitude 6.2 earthquake strikes Japan. So again, everybody is powerful, strong, significant. They're all describing it as an event. Now, this is allegedly the nuclear power site. And you can see the camera shaking. That's what you're looking at there. The camera is totally distorted because it's shaking so much. Let me go back and do that again. The camera's distorted. What you're looking at is the camera, a stationary camera that's shaking so intensely. And I do believe that's the nuclear site there. When it was happening, right? Because this happened at 10:18 or something. So the intensity was very long. And Japan has a blatant history of lying and misrepresenting it. And I don't have any context for where this is to. I know this is Massachusetts City itself, which is the center of, which is a big metropolitan city as far as I understand. And the nuclear plant is about 10 kilometers away from the city center. And these cities could easily be bigger than 10 kilometers wide, for instance, right? Or 20 kilometers. Like metropolitan, like Tokyo, 36 million people. Pretty big. This ain't Tokyo, but it's still pretty big. Followed by a series of the word sizable again. We got the word sizable again. They avoid using the regular words. You know, with those grounding mats, how do you know if they break? You'll never know. It's not like there's a light there to tell you, right? Aftershocks, because it's just plugged into your ground. I would imagine it's better to run your own individual ground, but I've watched a lot of presentations on it, tutorials on it, where I had electricians actually come in and test it to see if they actually were grounding, and they were, right? Through the common plug, for instance, is what I'm trying to articulate. It's a very important thing for your life, though, for your health, is grounding with the Earth magnetics. The sizable aftershocks, and here's one of the landslides they showed us. Now, I never went through all the headlines because there was a whack of headlines. Holy shit, you'd never see that many headlines. I think the last time I seen that many headlines was Fukushima. It was an upper 5 in Japan's 1 to 7 scale, which is a scale of 13. As far as I know, there's no lower. There is no lower. Let me look it up. I'll bring you in on it here. I need a separate search engine, like Bing. Piece of shit Bing. Let me put that up top of my page because is that a song there, Yellow Cake Mule? That's such a great song. Okay. Does Japan Shindu, I spelled that wrong. Does Japan Shindu scale of 1 to 7 have a lower 7? Yes. Oh, it does. Well, tickle me till I cry. Do say, you do tell. Let's see what the shithead co-pilot tells us. Schmert, M-A-R-T, Schmert. You got to watch out for these guys, by the way. These verify I'm a human. I don't want to click the button. Why should I have to verify it? Are they worried about some kind of DOS attack or something, I wonder? Only levels 5 and 6 have lower upper distinctions. Level 7 is absolute. Once shaking reaches the threshold, is classified simply as a Shindu 7. So they're saying it doesn't. Level 7 is the highest. There is no lower 7. Okay, well, don't tickle me. However, level 6 is split into 2 subcategories, lower and upper. We know that. I never asked you that. Smarten up. Shindu 7 is a single extreme category without subdivisions. So, boo! So, there is no lower 7. All right, so there's 13, whereas the international scale is 100. And there's a reason for that, because each 0.1 is significant increase. Should multiple powerful earthquakes within 10 kilometers of a embrittled 50-year-old nuclear disease factory concern you? Hell yeah, Dana. I'm only asking. Oh. Earthquake has a seismic intensity scale upper 5, so it's even more significant because it doesn't have a lower 7. Strong enough to make movement difficult without support, or without, like, quite a ways away, you couldn't even drive a car. 3 times, so if you went the distance from the earthquake clusters area to the nuclear plant, and the earthquake clusters to UG or whatever it was, go was 3 times the distance to there, and you couldn't drive a car because it was difficult. But the nuclear plant, which is 1/3 of the distance, sneaky little buggers, eh? Like movement difficult without support. Yeah, but he said you couldn't even drive a car. M7 5.7 earthquake. Now you don't know if that's if that's really upper 5 on the Japanese Shindu scale. You just can't trust them. They have, as I showed you that earlier, right, with the Hikito and the Shika nuclear power plant earthquakes, they actually hid the significance. So the earthquake was on land. So the Japanese apparently are going to wonder if that's going to cause a tsunami, because they're not smart enough to know that it has to be in the ocean. Well, just an earthquake in the ocean is not going to cause a tsunami. It has to be the tectonic plates have to let go. That's what's going to create the tsunami. You need a displacement for a very long distance for the tsunami to be significant threat to large coastlines or continents. So you need which is not hard to happen, because that's the tectonic plates are different earth crusts that are floating, right? And when they shift, there's so much landmass, there's so much weight there that when it shifts, it's also highlighted that the long period motion occurred. Long period motion is a slower back and forth swaying compared to the rattle of a shorter period motion. It's like a deeper one. It can be felt especially strongly on the higher floors of tall buildings, because the bottom is shaken, and eventually you end up with this, right? So it takes a little later for the upper to start. But the bottom, like if you build any kind of house of cards and you shake the shit out of the bottom, what's going to happen? The house of cards is going to crumble. In addition to the general increase in swaying on higher floors, buildings of different heights have different natural resonant frequencies, right? This is Nikola Tesla stuff we're getting into now, which can significantly increase motions. Right, so you know how an opera singer can hit a key and break a glass? Because there's a frequency that resonates for that glass. I shouldn't do that because my luck would break. I'm pretty unlucky. Buildings of different heights have different natural resonant frequencies, which can significantly increase motion. Nuclear plant safety review halted over fears of faked earthquake data. That was today's headline. Huh? Japan has a very, very, a lot of countries do, but Japan in particular, which is built on tectonic plates and fault lines in every direction, is running through the entire country. Just let me give you another example of what I mean by that, actually. Because we've been streaming now for an hour and 25 minutes, so the crowd has finally showed up. We got 7 people, holy shit. See, you 7 people are pretty slack. You only gave me 32 votes. What the hell is wrong with you people? Give me some more votes, you lazy buggers. Danny, we can only vote once. No, I only got 1 viewer. Let's do the current viewers watch. We're going to sit here and watch this for a while. I got 1 viewer. That sucks. That's hard on. I got 32 votes though, so I got 32 more. Somebody voted. I got no viewers. Oh crap! Oh shit. Well, there you go. I guess that's all we can do tonight. Well, I got two foolish people came by. Look at that. Hello, suckers. Welcome to the show. We're watching you tonight. That's what we're doing. We're watching our viewers, our current viewers. Wonderful people, not viewers, you bastard Google. These are concurrent, wonderful people. I got 7. What the hell, man? Where does all the people come from? I must have been syndicated, nationalized. Should multiple disease factories, multiple powerful earthquakes within 10 kilometers of an embrittled, I think it's the word, brittle. Some sneezes, like your whole body goes. You see it with the dogs too, right? Where the dog's whole body goes nuts after a sneeze. I just had one of those. Looks like I'm hanging on for a third one. I got 11 people. That's too many people. Go away. There's too many there. Can't do a show with that many people watching me. I gotta sneeze again. Hang on, I'm gonna blink out here. Woo! That was weird. I cleaned my sinuses that time. Hopefully I'll cure that. I can cure that now. Where am I to? That's the question. Where are you to? Okay, let me get back to, let's look at Shika. Because he hit that earthquake, right? Let's look at that for a second. We went through, right, we just showed you how they hit the Hokkaido earthquake. Anytime you're ready. So they hit this earthquake, which was very close to a nuclear plant. They faked the data on that nuclear plant earthquake. Right there, here we go. My nose is still a little stuffy. Shika. So Shika's on a fault line too, right? Shika was a spectacular earthquake, my goodness. In a community of 5,000, you see the epicenter up there? There was a town in Suzu, which is where that epicenter was to, a town of just over 5,000 households near the quake's epicenter. 90% of the houses may have been destroyed, according to the mayor. 90% of the houses. They hid that away from me too, didn't they? And that the Niigata Nuclear Power Plant is right where that Arl is to, and that's where they had that earthquake between that and the epicenter, which is not, in the scale of tectonic plates. You're right on the tectonic plates, the Eurasian plate, the North American plate. Just bear with me. Oh, there's a short. That's not what I wanted, though. Just hang on. Well, this is such an interesting statement right here about the Shika plant. Central Japan quake causes no problem at the plant. That's what they said today too, isn't it? But this was they said at this point, the numbers came up after. It was an upper 5. It registered an upper 5 of a maximum 7 on Japanese seismic intensity scale underneath the reactor. Not the site, but the reactor. Everything was totally fine, Data. It's nuclear. We're magic. So it was a lower 5.4 times, or did he say upper? Upper 5. Holy shit, eh? Doop. So 5. Let's go 5.8. Try it again. Let me clear this. So 5.8. I think an upper is a 6, right? We'll go 5.8 times 1.428. 1.428 equals, that's 8.2 earthquake. So it had an 8.2 earthquake in the basement of the reactor, number 1 reactor at the plant in Shika. And Shika is where the second arrow over there is to. Just hang on. This is good stuff. Bear with me now. Do this one more time. I just want to show you some of the pictures of what that looked like. We'll get there. Oh, it might be there. Yeah, that's better. Maybe. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's just take a walk down memory lane of Shika. Because they hit this too, right? This was last year, January the 1st. 2 years ago, January the 1st, 2024. So 2 years ago. I said 1 year ago earlier. So this earthquake was a 4,000-year-old fault line that ruptured. You can see the damage on the highways, for instance. This is, you'll see better pictures coming up. We got a lot of pictures here. But this destroyed 22,000 houses or something. The tsunami tossed these boats up on the wharfs, and it dried up dried up their harbors too. Not all of them, but you can see the damage from the tsunami. And you can see this was this business area. This was a was it like a, I can't remember. I'm afraid to say a number. I think it was like a 600-year-old market area, which is like a 600-year history there. When you look at these pictures, these are apocalyptic, right? And they had 1,500 aftershocks, which made this job even more insane. But they wouldn't let the international community go in and rescue people. This is people hiking out past, there was 1,500 landslides. They hit this because there's a nuclear power plant right by it that had a 8.2 in the basement. Right, that's their headline, that's their story, that's their paragraphs that was repeated many times in international medias. It tipped over. These buildings, by the way, were earthquake-proof buildings. And then they got to Prefecture, where they're going to have, they're going to open current nuclear power plant, just one of those reactors. they had 6,500 homes and businesses significantly harmed or destroyed by liquefaction during the Noto Ishikawa Prefecture earthquake of January 1st, 2024. Gates and everything, right? Yeah, this was a tsunami that came in. The tsunami, I'll explain that coming up actually. This is, and there was 1,500 landslides. The tsunami, that's damage from the tsunami right there of 2024, which was around 100 miles, I believe the numbers were. I got it there, maybe we'll find it. So Japan has this history of being completely dishonest. You ask the average person who's familiar with earthquakes and everything else, and they've probably never seen any of this. This is Shika community right alongside the Shika Nuclear Power Plant. Now, they never got any help in there, and they couldn't get out of there. If there was a nuclear meltdown, they couldn't get out. And they wouldn't let the international community go in. So there was all kinds of countries, like whenever Japan has a major earthquake, all kinds of countries with this kind of damage, all kinds of countries will send their some specialized teams. Right, they'll send a fraction of their specialized teams. And they'll send dogs. These are trained to go in there in the first 72 hours, the most crucial time period. Lots of people died in their homes because only the Japanese were going in there. Very few of them were going in there. In fact, they wouldn't bring in, these communities here were complaining because 2 weeks later, they still never had generators, never had no gas. They didn't have any medical supplies. They didn't have any food dropped off. The helicopters wouldn't even drop stuff off there. So, like, none of the communities were abandoned. And we were doing polls, like you see the poll tonight. I was doing polls saying, 10 days, this day 10, for instance. Day 10, should Japan use helicopters to drop supplies off to the abandoned thousands and thousands and thousands of people on the Noto Peninsula? Oh, we can't get in there, Dana. There was an earthquake. Yeah, well, you got helicopters, you got hovercrafts. You can actually get in there. You can do it. You don't have to stay there. You can duck and cover and drop off a bunch of fresh water and toilet paper and diapers and medication for the elderly, and first aid, and a few bottles of beer or something, sake for the... Nothing. In dead winter with snowstorms, you still wouldn't let the international community go in and rescue people. And they had as I showed you earlier, they had a massive earthquake in the basement of the reactor, but nothing happened. Everything totally perfect, ain't it? You had a tsunami. You had a tsunami lift up the coastline. I mean, all the communities were looking like this. They wouldn't let anybody go in and bring in supplies. International community couldn't go in. This was the tsunami damage. This used to be a road. This just dropped open, right? But they wouldn't even bring in supplies for the victims stuck in this. They wouldn't let the international community go in and rescue them and bring them aid or bring in the dogs, the specialists who had their own helicopters. The U.S. military were on Twitter. People from Japan were begging, from these places were begging the United States military base who said, we're ready to go. We got all kinds of helicopters. We got all kinds of supplies. Let's get it done. Let's make this happen. And Japan like, no, not so quick. You stay right down. We're Japan. We're better than everybody. We'll deal with it. They abandoned these people for about 30 days. And even then, they still wouldn't let international communities go in there. But the excuse was they had an earthquake, they had landslides, so they couldn't get there. But then the question is, why didn't you just use helicopters to drop some... Even the helicopter couldn't land, which of course it could. Why not just drop supplies down? Why not drop first aid medical teams down on the ground? We've never seen that before. Every other earthquake, Japan will gladly accept help from different countries. You see, that's why I get the big views. That's why I got like 7 people on my show. Holy shit, 7 already? I've only been at this for an hour and 40 minutes. How the hell do you get 7 people that quick? How does that work? That's because I'm a terrible person, no doubt. Blah, 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 blah. Hello, everybody. All 7 of you. 7 is a crowd. Kevin Blanche. Hi, Kevin. Well, thank God I got 8 people. 8 people, I got 32 votes and 26 likes. There's the last picture. So this is what it looked like before. See how the water's blue? Now look at the water. It's very shallow, right? And blue means deep water. And so there were 6 of these harbors, and you can see the extra landmass. So it was at least like a kilometer offshore. And inland, too, rose up 13 feet. And that's what caused the devastation. That's what caused... there was 150... This is not the best pictures. These are some of the pictures. But there were some of these highways... There was so much of it, you can't put everything into you can't keep it all in the folders, right? But... I know some of these big shot highways, like camera-wise, big shots, wide shots, I should say. Show some absurd damage, right, to the roads. It's around 1,500 of them. So, yeah, you can't get into conventional vehicles. I get that. So why not use helicopters? Why not let the international team go in there? According to the power company at the nuclear plant, at the Shimane Nuclear Disease Factory, power plant / nuclear power plant, the 7.6 magnitude quake registered an upper 5 and a maximum 7 on the Japanese seismic intensity scale beneath the number 1 reactor. Not the number, there was a number 2 reactor there too, right? So what they're talking about is in the basement of the reactor. It registered an upper 5, right, which works out to, we done that, okay, we already got that up on the calculator, which worked to an 8.3, 8.28 earthquake on the international scale. In the basement, but nothing happened, but then the question is, why didn't you let the international community, who were already flying into the country, but you wouldn't let them go up in the Noto Peninsula. And you said it was because of the earthquake. But they had their own helicopters. And I know this sounds crazy. You're like, no, Dana, you're insane. No, but hear me out. I know it sounds crazy, but there's helicopters in Japan. No, yeah, I know. No, hear me, listen to me, hear me out. There's helicopters in Japan. I swear to God, Japan has helicopters. You're like, you're crazy, Dana. No, they got helicopters in Japan. You're like, no friggin' way. You're full of shit, Dana. I'm not. I'm telling you the truth. I'm honest. I seen pictures. I see with my own 2 peepers. I seen pictures. I swear. I swear on Zoe's grave. And I remember when we were covering it, there was one guy who showed up in the comment section and said I was full of shit, there was no tsunami. He said, that was a little old lady who dropped her glasses and she drove up there. It was an accident, Dana. Blown it out of proportion again, Dana. There was no tsunamis, Dana. Japan Nuclear, this is the same day as a big earthquake, you have this story. Japan Nuclear Plant operator may have underestimated earthquake's risk. No, they didn't underestimate it. They blatantly hid it away and lied. It's fraud. It's not a scandal. It's a crime. It's a criminal act. Data fraud, scandal, data crime wave in the nuclear industry hits Japan's nuclear power plant in a mega quake zone. The whole country's a mega quake zone. The whole country's built on tectonic plates, for goodness sakes, on both sides of the country, ripping the country apart. There was a rip across the Noto Peninsula, Shichikawa Prefecture's Noto Peninsula, which is 150 miles across. It was, the whole Noto Peninsula was cracked in half. It was 150 kilometer long crack across the prefecture. 100 kilometers of coastline up to a kilometer offshore rose up into the ocean, and you lost 6 harbors. Boats were dried out in 6 harbors. They would eventually have to get a helicopter, because they actually do got helicopters, to come in and move the boats, because you wouldn't be able to drive out there. Japan nuclear regulator molds fresh screening for the Homoka nuclear disease factory. Anyway, we just done a whole show on an earthquake that is still ongoing. There could be more earthquakes tomorrow. I'm going to play a little video of today on the Skidoo. And, you know, like, I got to have it holding my camera sideways, but lately I've been accidentally holding it up, and then I realize what I'm doing, and you turn it sideways. But what I keep forgetting to do is restart the video, because what happens is the video is in that position. When you turn it sideways, it's going to be in a weird angle. And so let me sort that out. Are you to it, or you at? Now, I haven't edited this video or seen this video. I don't know if I said anything naughty or nice or nothing at all. I know I was mumbling anyway. This was my turnaround point. That's a 4,500-pound winch, because that weighs 800 pounds. If that gets stuck, I got no hope of lifting it. Now, I got a set of bags on an auction for that Skidoo. And I'll play the video in a second. Let me see if I can find that. I had to wait 2 months for it to show up, but it finally showed up just in time. Winter's just here. I paid $110 total for the 3 bags, and I spent $30 for the mounts. I got them for next to nothing. They usually cost $200. I don't know. I just transferred the data. That might even be there, or it might not. Hang on. Is it this folder? Yeah, it could be here. I think it's here. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, that'll work, but that's not what I'm looking for. Just give me 1 second. That's not it. Maybe this one. That's not it. One more try. No, it don't matter. Really, that's all I got is 2 pictures. don't worry about it. Well, here's one picture, maybe. So there's 30 gallons each, but I have a 65-gallon one too. It's like this. And I have the mount. Let me bring that up. Let me just tell that story. We're going to jump into Skidoo here in a second. Just entertain me for a second. So this is the mount. I got it coming up in a second. Right, and you can mount the bags on both sides of it. And so this is a universal mount for $30 size. It was $140 counting. I got these for 30 gallons each. The other one over there is the 18-gallon one, right? That's for the other motorcycle. But I got these for $22 each. So I got two of them. And then, because it's winter time, sometimes you'll find a good deal on the universal mounts. So I got that for $30. They're typically $200. And so that's $70. And then I got the 65-liter, which I should have pictures here. I don't know why I haven't got the picture. The 65-liter is a big one. And so I have three of them. That's what you need, and I'll explain to you now. That's what you need when you're doing what I'm doing, or doing research. Now I have a sled, but we need a bit more snow. And so normally you will take your tent and sleeping bag, generators and everything with you, just in case you break down and get stuck somewhere. And you carry a spike, and I carry 3 spikes, 3 2-foot steel spikes, and I carry a 3-pound maul, and I carry about, I carried today, I had probably 300 feet of rope counting the winch. And we're talking about half-inch real, not going to break under any circumstances. And a bunch of shackles and blocks so you can rig up block and tackle, or block and, so you can increase the power of your pulling, right? And I carry an extra battery back there too, a huge battery. So I'm going to get out. Okay. I gotta mess with this video. Just give me 1 second. I gotta turn this sideways. That's not working for some reason. Should work. Doesn't work at all. What's going on here? Let me go over to the other window here. All right. I'm sorry. Don't worry about it. I'll get it. Just bear with me 1 second. All right, so it'll work here. So I need the pane where I can zoom in, right? I think I can. Yeah, I'm gonna need it that way. And let me just zoom in and fill up the screen now while I'm at it. Because I shot this in the other way, but my equipment, I can do shit. I'll give you a better idea. There you go. Okay, keep your fingers crossed. We're, that's a few hours back. So, covered quite a distance today. We're down here by the ocean. I'm going to go back and then go to the other side of where I started. And no birds in the woods whatsoever. We got some crows here on the beach, some gulls right here. They'll head to McDonald's, I guess, soon enough. And there's no squirrels or anything on the trails. There's no... We got some light snow, so that's okay. But this is the 6th of January, 2025. Just a little video so people know that I'm actually out on the trail today. Now, I had a few problems with this starter. But it's working now. It's not very reassuring this morning. Got an extra battery with me. I got all the ropes and shackles and pulleys. And checked the winch again this morning, make sure it's working. I always do that before I leave. And it's at 800 cc, so it's really good on gas because you can't see any tracks if you're going fast, right? But with a big engine allows you to, because this weighs 800 pounds, it allows you to just idle along. There's no effort. So I'm going to head back. No effort and it's quiet. Should be home in about an hour or something. I'll get a show ready for tonight. I'll see everybody then. Yeah, and I got to bring the gimbal with me, but I don't have, I got to put those bags on my, just let me try to redo that. There we go. I got to put the bags on it tomorrow or the next day or whatever. The weather's going to switch tomorrow. It's going to warm up. So if I don't get out tomorrow, it'll be a week or more before I get back out by the looks of it. So I have spare engine, a spare throttle bodies, starting motors, 3 extra belts. It's a good system, right? We're trying to get research in, but the weather's been pretty strange. Am I tilted or something? What's going on here? It looks like I'm tilted. Oh, that's because I was playing with that. Yeah, I'm tilted. My apologies. Anyway, I'm just mumbling. I'll close it up. Yeah, so the idea now is to put my proper storage on it so everything's waterproof. I would have loved done this. I should have had finished by now, but trying to do these shows takes so much effort and time. And so if you made it this far, consider donating. There's a link at the bottom of the description directly to me. Colette donated almost $70. Bless your heart, Colette. Oh my goodness. That was great timing. And this operation is dependent upon people helping, right? People don't help me. It's very difficult to keep this operation. It's a hungry operation. And we are always expanding it, always building it, replacing things, maintaining everything that we can when we can. We can't keep up with it, can't afford it. But the research has definitely paid off. We've never seen any tracks in the snow of birds. Normally you will see because you're just, the idea of the bigger engine is you can go slower. It's a 4-stroke, it's a quiet engine. And so it doesn't distract you, right? And you're looking for tracks. Because when you got less horsepower skidoos, you got to give it a lot of gas just to go slow. Whereas with this thing, you're just barely touching the throttle. And I got to adjust the brake on that tomorrow, actually, before I take off. If I take off, hopefully I do anyway. I'm going to go out every day I can. And just, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully it finds a whole bunch of animals and birds and species. And so, should multiple powerful earthquakes within 10 kilometers of a brittled, neutron-embrittled 50-year-old nuclear disease factory concern you? We still only got 32 votes, eh? Never got an extra vote in the last hour. Well, there you go. Let me just check and see. Let's see, I'm going to play that Lost Queen Conch song again. And you find it on James Luce's site with 500 plus videos now. He does the film, the music, he puts it all together. It's an enormous amount of work. Get over there and give him some, show him some love. Have a great night. Hugs for everybody. Take care. What have I got done now? Here we go, sorry.
On November 2025, a site biologist identified an adult queen conch moving in shallow water along the bank of the St. Lucie plant intake cooling canal. The biologist captured the queen conch, subsequently documenting its condition through photography and cataloging. The queen conch was released back into the environment at the adjacent Walton Rocks Reef area. Lost queen conch, lost queen conch, lost queen conch. The discovery of the conch in the intake canal was unforeseen. It is believed that the specimen either entered the canal as an adult through the offshore velocity channel or arrived as larvae and subsequently matured within the canal. Lost queen conch, lost queen conch, lost queen conch. Biologists perform ongoing monitoring of the canal for the presence of turtles. Regular surveys are also conducted along the canal banks, and with turtle net St. Lucie will now include queen conch in its shallow water bank inspections, free diving activities and reporting protocols. Lost queen conch, lost queen conch, lost queen conch. The entry of queen conch into the canal cannot be prevented. However, following its discovery, St. Lucie has included this species in its inspection and dive activity monitoring protocols. Lost